So 1 in 9.2 quintillion. I want to just throw some perspective at you guys of other far-fetched things. So when your bracket's already busted and it's, 2:08 West Coast time, and you're thinking, man, my bracket.
And for the record, we all filled out our bracket. We're just trying to explain that no one wants to hear about yours. Everybody cares about their own. They just don't care about yours.
I made that point when we walked in. Bree, who's a lovely producer. I love Bree. She's in the editing room.
Oh, Briella.
She ripped her pants today. I'm sure she wants me to tell everyone on Fox Sports Radio.
Everyone laughed.
Wow,
like
I didn't even
SpongeBob.
know that, and I'm here.
She ripped her pants.
Is that why I saw her running through the parking garage in sweats?
No,
Yes.
I swear.
So Bree ripped her pants. She said she bought a cute new outfit, and it ripped in the crotch. She had to have, Uber go to Target.
That's Bree right there. That's Bree.
And she had to have sweatpants delivered here so that she could have pants. And I said, you know what? No one would even notice because everyone's so self-involved that if you would have turned the corner, Bree, and someone said, Rich, for $1 million, what is Bree wearing? I would have got it wrong.
Also, we have staplers and tape. You could just Jimmy rig that thing. You could MacGyver that.
I wouldn't have noticed.
So-
Yeah, we're all overstimulated today. We're not even paying attention.
Everyone's overstimulated, and everyone's only concerned about themselves.
Yeah, everyone's in their own
Like when
zone.
you have a big pimple on, you can have a big pimple on your nose, and you think everyone's looking. No one even notices. However, this bracket thing, 1 in 9.2 quintillion. For perspective, I did a little research. Other things that seem very impossible. What do you think the chances of winning the Powerball are?
Not as high as the bracket.
1 in 292 million.
Wow.
To win the Mega Millions, 1 in 302 million. To get eaten by a shark in the ocean, 1 in 265 million.
Wow, really? That's some bad luck.
To be struck by lightning, 1 in 16,000. A lot of people get struck by lightning, apparently. And to bring it back to sports, to show the perspective of this perfect bracket where you guess all 63 games right, 1 in 9.2 quintillion, to make it into professional sports. Fewer than 2% of D1 collegiate athletes make it into the pros. Less than 2% of Division I college athletes go professional. In fact, in the NFL, 1 in 10,000. In Major League Baseball, 1 in 22,000. And in the NBA, 1 in 55,000.
Wow.
So to put in perspective of the people out there that played sports in high school, college, anything, to make it to the pros is tough enough. You've seen those people do like their little demonstrations like, how many kids play Little League or Pony Ball? Millions and millions. And then how many of those play junior high, high school, college, minor league, get drafted?
Whittles down.
It whittles down and whittles down. So to think how tough it is to get into pro sports, to win the lottery, to be eaten by a shark. I didn't look this one up. Knock on wood, to be in a plane crash. That's why when all these terrible flight things are happening, you still have to remember there's 100,000 flights that take off out of the United States every day. 100,000.
You have a better chance to be killed by a meteorite than you do to have a perfect bracket.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So
1 in 840 million.
Well, think about it like
so
this.
to have a meteor hit you, the odds. So when companies are like, hey, we'll give you millions if you get a perfect bracket, they might as well say we'll give you trillions if you get a perfect bracket.
It's going to be a quintillion.
Elon's promising you a trip to Mars, which we know is not even possible. So, maybe it's like if you actually somehow did get a perfect bracket, he's like, okay, we'll figure that out at some point. But it's not going to happen.
I was saying, you brought it up yesterday. I thought the documentary was fascinating. Do you remember that Pepsi promotion where they said
collect enough points, those little cutout coupon or little the barcode UPC thing on a case of Pepsi or Mountain Dew.
You'd get a jetliner.
You needed like 60 million points or something.
Yeah, it was
like
a fighter jet.
But they made it like a joke in the commercial, and
people really tried to do it.
Right.
There's
and
a documentary.
Some guy actually did it.
And you know what? It just shows you how hard it is. The end. I just wanted to put it in perspective because
what are you gonna do with all that Pepsi and Mountain Dew?
Did you watch that documentary?
No, but you're gonna have to store all that in like a warehouse, then it goes bad.
I forgot how he did it, but
they did.
It's all warm now.
They got a warehouse. He had people to fund him because
he had to get investors.
you can't just buy millions of cases. I mean, how much do you think millions of cases of Pepsi cost? So this kid did it.
You might as well just buy a fighter jet from like the Russians or something. I mean, it's much more cost efficient.
So just to put in perspective, if your bracket stinks, you're not alone. Everyone's bracket stinks. In fact,
What was the luckiest thing that ever happened to you growing up?
it's a good question. I never even won a raffle.
Never a raffle? Nothing like that?
Never
No?
won- Yo, I know.
Scratch off?
You
I
never
know.
won like a cakewalk?
At my kids' Little League at Ben's Pony Ball opening day, we won a $50 gift card to an ice cream shop. That's the luckiest I
this
ever
is
got.
no perfect
Yay.
bracket, but this is an amazing story in my life.
Okay, let's
It's
hear it.
not a perfect bracket, okay? But there has to be what's right under quintillion. There's probably 1 in a trillion chances of this happening.
Bazillion.
All right, this is at least 1 in a bazillion chances. You know those carnival games where there's bottles and you have to throw those little red rings on those bottles?
It's very hard.
But the little red rings are just the right size to fit on top of those bottles, right?
Yeah.
And there's
It's like the
usually
fixed basketball
and there's
hoops.
there's usually one like golden
Well,
bottle.
I'm glad you said that because there was 500 bottles, okay? 1 gold bottle. I swear to God. This is the truth. And I think it was Six Flags, if I'm not mistaken. I'm at Six Flags. There's 1 gold bottle. The rest of them are like brown, right? And you get those little bucket of red rings. Dude, I did a little flickaroo, right? Dude, it was like, I swear to you,
Slow
it was
motion?
like one of my ancestors, an angel from above, caught it mid-flight and placed it perfectly right on the only golden bottle.
like Christopher Lloyd and Angels in the
It
Outfield.
looked so weird. I couldn't believe my eyes, dude. It was like blink. I was like, what? Dude, nobody believed it. And you know what? You know, they advertised like you could win a TV. They didn't have anything. They didn't have anything because no one wins that. So I'm like, wait.
Oh wait, so
I win.
they advertise like flat screen TV
Yeah.
or a mountain bike,
Yeah,
and they're
'cause no
probably
one
like,
is.
here's a Tweety Bird stuffed
no, they're
animal.
like, just come in the back. We'll discuss
I'm
this.
like,
We'll
wait
figure
a
out
second.
something for you.
There's only 1 out of 500. The chances of winning, I get Scooby-Doo? Hell no. And it's funny you say that, Rich. I actually got a mountain bike out of it. I wanted the TV, but they were like, oh, we can give you a mountain bike. And at the time, I was like, I could actually use a mountain bike. I was in college. I was like, I could use a mountain bike. Took the mountain bike. And that's my story. That was a 1 in a trillion chance when I did the math. So, yeah, I was pretty lucky. It's no bracket, dude, but it was pretty dope.
I mean, there's some people you see that on their DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever, they'll be like, I'm like 1 leg away from a 15 leg parlay. And that itself is one of those, but that's a bet. I'm saying in life, when do you feel like, Danny, do you have a moment where you're like, yeah, it was like my luckiest moment?
As a kid? No, I mean, I was like, I got a job that I was trying really hard for. I was 15 years old at the time, and it was an official, legit FM radio station. So I felt super lucky getting hired after the interview. You know that feeling after an interview where it's the hardest night's sleep. You don't know if you're going to get a call back.
Yeah.
I had to bring a work permit in. I'm thinking the odds are stacked against me. So by far, I was the little Doogie Howser on the FM radio station staff. So that probably was like my luckiest moment as a kid.
And we see these half-court shots with all that pressure for big bucks. You know what was really lucky? Did you see that Luka shot warming up? Give me a break with that.
Yeah.
Rich, did you see this?
No, I didn't.
Dude, he's like in the stands, and he just launches it up from behind the backboard, like by the tunnel. It goes from behind the backboard, high arc, swish, nothing but the bottom.
I remember when we were kids,
But, dude,
Larry,
it was way crazier than anything you've seen Steph Curry do before.
Larry Bird would do that in warm-ups, and I remember seeing that on like Warner Wolf's
I gotta
Plays of
show
the
you
Year
this.
as a kid. You know, when you think about luck in sports, of course, the Immaculate Reception comes to mind. But
The Immaculate Reception for me is when that field goal was kicked and there was a dude that jumped out of the stands with such precision, perfect
the
timing.
Chicago fan.
And he caught it midair.
people don't realize that was Isaac Lowenkron. True story,
Dude,
right,
you
Isaac?
know the timing involved on that? That's crazy, dude.
Isaac Lowenkron.
That was
Security
immaculate.
guards were a little touchy with me after that.
I remember
don't
being
blame
like, wait a minute. But one more sports one, and I know, Sam, you have one, and I have a story about Covino that I think was his luckiest moment. But in sports, do you guys remember when Paul O'Neill bobbled the ball in right field, and for some reason he's like, F it, and he just kicked it with his foot?
Yeah. Lucky.
And it was like went in line to the cutoff man.
It's on his baseball reference, like throws righty, kicks lefty or whatever. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But
Is that legal?
yeah, it is.
Wow.
You can't throw your glove at a ball, can you, though? I don't think so, right?
What if it lands in the glove?
Hold on. Covino's showing me the Lucas shot.
Yeah. Watch this shot. Talk about luck. There's like so much luck in that. I mean,
I
there's
think
obvious skill, but look how ridiculous.
Oh, my
that
God.
It looks fake.
That was in warm-ups?
Yeah, it
And then he
looks
would go
fake.
on to have what? That huge first quarter?
Yeah, it looks
So
like
it
he's
was
gonna
kind of a
score 50
precursor for what
points.
was to come, yeah.
So my moment that I think Covino's forgetting was his luckiest moment. And I don't want to be vulgar here on Fox Sports Radio, but
Oh,
Don't
boy.
make me dump you.
Oh,
Clo-
does this involve Patriots cheerleaders?
close your ears,
All
kids.
right, better clean it up.
Earmuffs.
We were in our 20s. Every good story starts with we were in our 20s.
Well, it justifies it.
Yeah, justifies it too.
Wait. You need one of these sound effects. We
The
were in our
year was
20s.
2000 something. We're at a Super Bowl party. And at this Super Bowl party were the New England Patriots cheerleaders. And you can imagine they were smoking hot.
They were.
One of these girls, you could imagine, a model blonde looking cheerleader, probably like the hottest one.
She's like, hey, you.
Was like she was like teary eyed, like she was sad. She comes up to Covino and she's like, "You come with me."
I'm like, me?
And she brings Covino back to her hotel. I remember waiting in the lobby for 2 minutes. But apparently her boyfriend had cheated on her. And she's like, I'm going to get revenge. Covino happened to look like her boyfriend.
Yeah. The scoop was I resembled him, so
And I remember
I
being
reaped the benefits of this guy being
And-
a
Shoot.
cheater, I guess.
She got cheated on by Mario Lopez?
I guess, yeah, probably.
and I remember being like, did this just happen? Did he just happen to be a guy that looked like this hot girl's
That's a
boyfriend?
lucky night.
So yeah, let's
I
go.
got
Give me
lucky.
props, Covino.
Sometimes luck's on your side, sometimes not so much.
Sam, what's your lucky story?
So about 13 months ago, this was mid-February of last year, Des Bryant on X shared that he did a 13-leg college basketball parlay, and he won $417,000. He had a
Damn.
13-leg parlay
That's
that hit,
crazy.
and he won. I mean, to be a retired football player and to win $417,000, that's like a couple paychecks. Then you're like, okay, that's some good money.
You know what the big story in the East Coast was growing up? If you grew up in the New York, New Jersey area, this was a big headline. I don't know if it made it out here on the West Coast. This is at the height of when Jennifer Lopez is Jenny from the Block, J-Lo. Everyone's like, blah, blah, J-Lo, J-Lo. As popular as she is now. The big story was her mother went down to Atlantic City, and J-Lo's mom won the $1 million slot machine.
The
And
Wheel
it-
of Fortune
Yeah,
machine.
and it was like, really, of all people, J-Lo's
Yeah.
mom, like, as if she needs it. But you remember that story?
Yeah, of course.
Like, it
I
was
do.
like, Jennifer Lopez, her mom, of all people.
So your lucky story, feel free to share 877-99 on Fox, but you need to be what?
I'll say it one. I'll
Quintillion?
say it one last time, and then I'll retire it until next
Yeah.
year. Guys, 1 in 9.2 quintillion, ridiculously more tricky than winning the Powerball, the Mega Millions, and getting eaten by a shark while being struck by a meteor at the same time.
You could take
Could happen.
You could take the fun out of anything.
I know.
Definitely could happen.
Hey guys, you could do it though. Remember,
So you're telling me there's a chance?
hey, I mean, if Harry thought there was a chance, Lloyd Christmas,
A guy like you and a squirrel ghoul like me.
Samsonite.
Squirrel ghoul.
I was way off.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I was Sam. Davey
If you
G.
get that perfect bracket, Fox Sports Radio pays you in IOUs.
A briefcase full of IOUs, maybe occasional $5 bills.
This is
in
good
there.
as money, guys.
This one's as good as money.
Yeah.
I'd say a Ferrari.
When we first started promoting this, I pictured our boss Scott Shapiro sitting down with the lawyer for our network and saying, "1 million? Can we say 10 million?"
You could say 500
Guess what?
million.
There's not a briefcase with $1 million.
You
You're
can-
gonna
dude,
end up with a mountain bike.
You could say $500 million, and Colin Cowherd gives you lap dances.
they were like Howie Mandel briefcases on the table.
I think the point here, it's
$1 billion.
not impossible.
It is.
But it's the closest thing to impossible.
Dude, it is.
It's
I'm-
improbable.
and
No,
then he-
technically it's not impossible.
Not-
Technically, it's
not impossible,
But
but
it's the
we-
closest thing you could.
But we just talked about how you could win the Powerball and get hit by a meteor, and still that's better odds.
But
While
you know
getting
what?
eaten by a
All
shark.
right, ready? Here's a question
Yeah.
to move on from. What's more likely to happen in our lifetime? Someone just miraculously, dumb luck, gets a perfect bracket.
Never.
Or we see aliens.
Aliens. 100%. Aliens. No doubt. Do you guys remember the movie Hot Tub Time Machine?
Yes.
Where Rob Corddry bets something because he's like, I know the fast, and it changes but he bet something like dirty or sexual. Do you remember that at the
Yeah.
bar when he's playing pool?
Yeah.
So, hey, I guess anything could happen. You're right. There's no such thing as impossible, but 1 in 9.2 quintillion, I'll take my chances.